If you want the free gift at the end, hang on, I've just got to minimize all these other bits and pieces. If you want the free gift at the end, just text that a message, text the word health with your company name and your name, and I will arrange for that to be sent to you. It's quite an interesting gift. It's basically a workflow that shows you how to do some of the things that we're talking about.
I need to move a window. Write this down.
Sorry?
I need to move a window to write down this phone number. Just give me one more second.
Okay. Do you want me to call it out to you?
No, I've got it. 726-227-4459.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
My promise during this training is that the two of you will get at least one method you can use in the next 30 days to generate more business into your business practice. Right. The current patient facts are that more than half of our patient revenue, this is generally across practices of different types, comes from existing customers, but that's pretty much across business full stop. An average loyal patient is worth 10 times as much as a first-time patient. It costs 5 times as much to acquire a new patient than it does retain an existing patient. Bizarrely, we actually spend more money trying to get new ones than we ever do retaining the ones we've actually got. A 5% increase in that retention can increase profits by up to 75%. And that another way of looking at that is a 2% increase in retention has the same effect of reducing your costs by 10%, which might be a member of staff. It could be anything, but just hanging on to an extra 2% of people in your business can actually make that much difference. And repeat customers spend 300% times more and purchase more frequently. And that's pretty much across any industry, to be honest. But the reality is these figures were taken across optometry, veterinary, and businesses like that. Right. Staying in touch. This doesn't mean that you send out the practice newsletter once a month, once a year, once a decade. And it doesn't mean you just send out a recall letter once a year or less, quite often. By delivering real value to your customers through various ways, then they are more likely to stay engaged and not wander elsewhere. The reason big brands make more money is because big brands engage people because they spend a lot of money advertising. But you don't need to do that as long as you don't lose their attention in the first place. Sorry, gone the wrong way. And a quick note, staying in touch means making meaningful content. If you're using social media, then a good way of doing that is to actually call out the social media posts and call out your customers. But also another way might be to send out an email newsletter which has beneficial information to your customer. They don't care that you've just won an award. They genuinely do not. I did a lot of research into this and I asked people, what are the things that matter? And they said, good value, caring, came probably the highest. You actually care about me. And as soon as people feel that way, they react in a very different way. It's not all about money. It's often about how much effort you put in to make them feel wanted. The power of staying in touch. This is a true story. The optical business contacted 50 dormant clients. It's handy that you're both from the optical world. And I'm in the UK, so I've used pounds, but you could transfer that to dollars. £2,500 in sales was made from a text booking 10 appointments. The first one of those came in 9 minutes after the text had gone out. 10 of the 50 dormant clients became active patients, which is 20%. Dormant, I will qualify, they actually hadn't spoken to these clients for 8, nearly 9 years. They actually took over another practice where they hadn't spoken to the clients, or if they did, they certainly didn't keep records. And it was a hope and a wing and a prayer kind of thing, and it pulled off. And this is generally the impression we get when we speak to people, even people that we haven't spoken to for many years, because they kind of think you don't care. But as soon as you let them know you care, they start to become interested. The active I've used here for the example, an active patient sale was £250. Yours might be significantly higher or less. The thing about getting these dormant patients' lives is it gives you a chance to get more referrals. It gives you a chance to get better and more reviews, and it gives you a chance to keep selling to them, repeat business. This particular opticians had 3,000 clients, and of which they described the active number was 70% and the dormant number was 30%. So they'd written off 30% of their client database. 10 active new patients, that's 50 contacts, generated £2,500. But it gets better. 50% of those buy again each year. So that's another £1,250. 30% buy every couple of years. So that's another £750. Customers' buying pattern over 10 years is typically what we use when we look at lifetime value of a customer. But that could be a 10-year period. If you are the kind of business that retains a client for life, essentially, that could be 30 years or more. For 50 dormant patients over a 10-year period, that's £12,500 and 3,750, which of course gives you initial sale as well of 2,500. Bearing in mind, these are dormant patients. They were patients that people had given up on, essentially. That gives you total sales of 18,750, which effectively is free money. Anyone wants some. But don't forget the remaining 40 patients may also make a purchase if we keep talking to them and stay in touch with them. Some may not. For fun, let's imagine just 10% of the 3,000 patients in the database each made one additional purchase this year, but 50% of them also referred you a new patient. You have initial sales of 300 by 250, which is 75,000, and referred sales of 37,500. Bear in mind, we're working on 3,000 patients here. That's potentially an extra 112,500 in 1 year. So the reality is because of the fact that we spoke to these patients and they bought maybe twice, maybe they hadn't intended to buy anything. But now, because we made contact with them, they are now potentially worth an extra over 100,000 in 1 year. Would even a fraction of that make a difference to this year for you? Right. What are we talking about by patients? We're talking about your current patients, people that you see regularly and perhaps contact on a regular basis. Your previous patients, people that maybe have left, you've not seen for years, but somehow you have their information. People who contacted you, but perhaps didn't ever become a patient. They may have made an inquiry. They may have entered a competition. They may have just contacted you through social media. So social media contacts, if you ask people, chances are, if you make it worth their while, they'll give you their information from social media. And then there's other contacts. There's people that you've made contact with, not necessarily in the usual traditional ways, but in other ways. And they're still contacts. Why not tell them what you do and contact them? So how did we reactivate these patients? It's simple. We used a personalized text message. It's just checking, basically, we could have made an offer. That's not essential. You could equally just ask for them, I'm sorry we haven't heard from you for a while, just checking up, you're still okay. And that's how it works. And ultimately the result is they make this initial purchase, or they might make an inquiry, or they might just start a conversation with you. You then have the opportunity to upsell them. That might be an upsell now. It might be an upsell sometime in the future. Or they may repeat purchase. They may, once they become a client, they may become a lifetime customer. So they keep repeat purchasing. This is someone who basically you'd given up on. In the year 2000, you had 12 seconds to capture someone's attention. Now it's even less. Your website has 8 seconds, according to research. That's 1 second less than the attention span of a goldfish. Bearing in mind, your website is now on people's mobile, so 8 seconds may be a little bit optimistic because you can flick through a mobile phone in a matter of a fraction of a second. New trends on like Web9 is that people are using mobile phones. So if your website isn't mobile phone friendly, then you are losing customers. There is not a question of doubt that that's the case. We all use our fingers and thumbs nowadays. We don't very often click on mice, although today, obviously, I am. But generally, because of social media, e-commerce, Amazon, all of these things, everything is done either through an app or through a mobile device. The enemy of conversion is a poor website. So if you want your customers and want new customers, you need to have a good website. Most practice websites are brochures. They're not designed to do anything but just sit there and be read. You don't want visitors to read. You want them to take action. If they're reading, they're not doing. And by the time they finish reading, if they're bored, they've disappeared. And to convert them into paying patients. This is an example of a website that is not a brochure website. And I'll go into it in more detail in a minute. There are 4 actions you want someone to take when they come to your website. They click on a link. That might be because they've got an email. It might be because they've got a social media post. It might be they've had another way of you've got hold of them, maybe even left them a web address. You want them to subscribe and opt in. This might sound a weird thing in the optical industry. What are they subscribe for? But the thing is if you can get people to subscribe to anything, a lead magnet of some kind, and we'll go into that in a short while, then you now have the ability to communicate with them. They've given you that permission to contact them. So even if they're not a customer at this moment, you have the opportunity to change that in the future. Quite often, businesses don't follow up on inquiries. They give up at the first hurdle, because if nobody books an appointment, as far as they're concerned, well, that's the end of it. But it doesn't need to be. Quite often, I've found with clients that if you actually follow them up, eventually the timing is just right. They may just not need new eyewear. They might not be ready to buy their new sunglasses in June. They might wait till August when they go on holiday, those kind of things. But if you show them that you care and you're interested in them, then they will become interested in you, and you'll lock out your competition. You want some of them perhaps to call or book an appointment with you. And also the ideal thing is, of course, you want them to purchase something from you. Sometimes a small purchase is all it needs. So don't always assume you have to sell something expensive to capture a customer. Once you've captured a customer, they are now able to be, from what I would refer to as, indoctrinated. In other words, you can send them information about things you're doing, make things interesting to them, and they'll want to hear from you. What we call the one-page website funnel, which is the way websites need to be in 2023. A funnel is designed to move the visitor who comes to your website into the sales process. It tells the story with a beginning, a middle, and an end, and it helps the visitor make a decision to choose you, not your competitors. Visitors are looking for products and services, and that's why they're online. You have the opportunity to tell your story. Very few optical websites tell any kind of story. They're just basically a brochure. You need to tell your customers or prospects why you're different. If you're radically different to everybody else, if nobody knows that, then they just assume you're the same as everybody else. Sorry, it went the wrong way. You can educate people. You can show them that you have things that matter. A very expensive machine is very important to your practice, I'm sure. But the reality is, if your clients don't know what it does for them, they could not care less. They couldn't care less if you have an award that you won for being the best of whatever. The point is if it has a benefit to them, then they're interested, but they don't know if you don't tell them. And then you need to tell them what the benefits of dealing with you is. Obviously, dealing with you is very different to maybe dealing with, I don't know, another company. Say, for example, a company that concentrates predominantly as a retail business, and therefore they're more focused on selling and selling and selling, and very not much focused on customer service. And then, of course, you need to tell them about your value. If you value doesn't necessarily mean you're cheap. Value means that you deliver what they want. And to some clients, that might be cheap. And if they're not your kind of clients, then you don't want to appeal to those kind of clients. You actually want to actively not appeal to those kind of clients. And there are ways and means of doing that. So what if, instead of building a multiple website brochure, which is what most optical websites are, you had a single page website that told a story with a beginning, a middle, and an end. And ultimately, it was designed to generate you inquiries and appointments. Right. This is what we call a one-page funnel. This is obviously for a vet. And this is what we call a multi-page website. The classic multi-page website in the UK is probably something like BBC. It might be Time Magazine, anything like that. A multi-page website is full of information. The problem is the bit you want, where is it? And not only that, the more bits of information there is, the less likely you are to be focused on the thing that you're actually looking for. When it comes to a business, as opposed to an information kind of website, then it needs to have one key purpose, which is to either get someone to book an appointment or at very least to start some form of dialogue with you. I move on.
So Graham, can I just interject? Are you saying that we should be going for a one-page website as opposed to a multi-page website?
Yeah.
Is that what you're advocating?
Yeah, let me explain. A multi-page website is brilliant on a computer. But the downside is that, one, is it doesn't have a call to action. There's no purpose to it because there's so many things you can do. But a one-page website, it funnels people through. So if you imagine the website on a mobile phone, you'll see that example in a minute. Basically, on a mobile phone, people are using their finger or their thumb. Finger, I think, generally. And what that means is that that's what they need to see. So you only want to get them to the point where they take action. It doesn't matter that you have this wonderful website that's absolutely packed full of useful information. If you've got 5, maybe 8 seconds before you engage them, if you don't engage them straight away, they've gone anyway. So It's hard work getting anywhere. Let me try and demonstrate. On a one-page funnel website, designed for mobile, the story is clear. But we're not talking story as in, a story. We're just talking, this is why we are who we are. This is what we do, this kind of thing. And on a multi-page website, it's just confusing. You don't know, you click one button, then you click another. And what if you want to go back to the first one? You're not really sure how. You've got half a dozen windows open, and this is on your phone. And you're sitting there thinking, ugh. You use user-friendly scrolling navigation. You don't want lots of links on a website. It really doesn't work in this day and age. If you have one of those little, what we call hamburger menus on your website, chances are it's far too big. You'll see what I mean. It doesn't necessarily mean it's a small website. It just means it doesn't work in the way it should do. Hard to navigate, lots of clicking. Right, you can click here, you can click there, you can go here, you can go there. But the trouble is none of it actually directs you to where you want people to go. What we're trying to achieve is we're trying to funnel people to take action. We don't actually want them to be on our website. We want them to be booking an appointment, or we want them to be asking for more information. And there's no clear action on the multi-page website. That's why companies like Amazon use them, because they don't care. They know that you're already there to buy something. But if you're going to an optician, then you're not ready to buy something. You might just be comparing. You might be deciding, well, do I like that one? Does that feel good? Et cetera, et cetera. And you're not capturing them. Right, sorry, I went the wrong way. Split testing, it's quite important that you can split test what works and what doesn't. So if we say, for example, had a book appointment button here like this, for example, then we can test whether a blue one works better than a green one or a yellow one works better than a red one. But here, where do we start? Where do we put buttons? Where do we put this? Where do we put that? It's just too much. And 6 to 10 call to actions. On our one-page website, we can have lots of calls to action. So if they miss the first one, they might catch the second one. If they miss the third one, they might catch the fifth one. And I'll show you what that means in a minute. I'm going the wrong way. Very importantly, and this is absolutely crucial, is it's mobile friendly. It has at least 60%, and I think that's an underestimate, of people now do everything on a mobile phone. And your multiple page website is an absolute blessed nightmare, which is why Amazon uses an app. If you go to the Amazon website, good luck with that on a mobile. And you can track conversions. So you can track what people did. You can track those people who clicked your book appointment button. You can track people who got your free report. You can track everything. And you can't do that on a multi-page website because you don't know where they came from, because they came from another page. They might have come in a different page, etc., etc. And SEO is important, but it doesn't necessarily do what you think it does. It generates people to come to a web page, but if that web page is not where you want them, you haven't actually achieved anything. And you can add what I class as a free irresistible offer. In other words, you can have a lead magnet, but it's really difficult the other way around. Right, I've used a vet because at the time I had a vet website handy. So if you can see here, it's really, really simple. We have a call us button, which isn't a call us button, it's actually a phone. We have an email us thing, and we have our days and times and open. We have social media. We have these kind of buttons, but you'll see in a minute how they work. And then we have a book an appointment button. Let's cut to the chase. What we actually want people to do is book an appointment. But that doesn't then go to a calendar. That then goes to an ability for someone to book an appointment. So we don't ask them 500 questions, and I'll come to that in a little while. We ask them if they want to book an appointment, because as soon as you start putting in, because your medical records, what is it you want to book? Do you want to book an eye test? Do you want to book a lens test? Do you want to book this, and this? It assumes they actually know, and 9 times out of 10, they don't. Right, these are just examples. You can basically put things like your services on your website. You can describe what your clients think about your website. You can even live stream that information so it comes direct from your reviews. We can put information about the services we offer, etc., etc. And of course, the most important thing, but it's always at the bottom, is how to get there and your hours, right? Because if you've got them to the bottom, they're taking action. They haven't got to the bottom of your website for the fun of it. They are ready to take action. So rather than them having to scroll back up to everything again, you have a button to click here, book. Right. The reality is this button will take you to the other button, will take you to the other button. So the buttons all work together. That's the whole point of a one-page website, is when you click a button, it actually slides up to where you need to be on the web page. Right. And then there's things like you can describe your team, you can have video, there's all sorts of things that you can do to engage people. Right. But most importantly, they may never ever see any of this, and it doesn't really matter as long as they've booked an appointment, because that's all you actually want. If you want better conversions, you have to tell a better story. So this is what a typical brochure website looks like. Right. I picked a website in the US. There's no reflection on anything there. But the point is you can see it looks very, very busy, and that's just on a laptop. Right. The problem is this is supposedly mobile optimized, right? But that isn't mobile optimized for anything. It's just a mass of words. And that's what it would look like on your mobile phone. And unless I'm very wrong, very few people are actually going to bother to read that. It's hard work. There's nothing there to engage me. There's not even a bit of a heading or anything. Right. Imagine the difference, right? This actually isn't an example of just one page of the top of a part of a website. This is what we call a story block. So this bit would be part of the story. And this is what it would look like on a mobile phone. It's clear, concise, and it's very easy to read. It's literally bang. Oh, schedule a booking. Yeah, okay, let's do that. And that's what it looks like. So that's the example of how it sits on the mobile phone. So that essentially is the same kind of style of information, but we've got here, schedule a free checkup. So if that's what you do, then that's an option. Call us today. If we want people to call you, then it's there. There's very little left to chance. People actually don't really want that much information. They just want to know they can trust you. If you tell your story, you use images, short copy, color, which is obviously an American, And you design things so they look brilliant on mobile. And if they happen to look half decent on a computer, that's a bonus. But it has to look brilliant on mobile. I was speaking to a guy who is put it this way, he does $1 million a month in his business. And he said to me, if you're not building a website for mobile first, then you're basically throwing money down the toilet. You have a choice. You can tell your story 2 different ways. You can do it this way, or you can do it that way. But which one do you think is going to work when they look at it? It's the one that obviously engages them and tells the story. Brand site funnel is designed to create trust, and it's optimized for converting visitors into customers. It has a very deliberate framework. As you can see, this is actually for a gardening company, but it doesn't really matter. The principles are the same. It has an attention-getting headline, so you're trying to get people to take action. Whoops. It has an attention-getting image, relevant, obviously, to your business. It has an attention-getting offer. Offer doesn't necessarily have to mean discount. Offer has to mean that you want them to take some action, and you're going to make it worth their while for doing so. You made a promise. So our promise to you is, and please don't use the obvious, we give great service, because everyone's heard that 1 million times. And would you advertise it if you didn't? That's the thing that customers think. When they see somebody saying, we are been established for 30 years and we give a fantastic service, blah, blah, blah. People don't care. They want to know what you actually do, not what you claim that you're going to do. So they want to know, we work with clients, we spend 34.5 minutes doing this and we do 27 minutes of this, blah, blah, blah. That's what they're looking for. And they want to know why, not what it is you do. They want to know what's in it for them. That's the only thing a client in any business is actually interested in. If I come to a website, I want to know what you're going to do for me. I don't want to know what you do for you. And if you don't have a call to action, then nobody will do anything. This is one of my pet peeves. And this is, I take great pleasure in talking about this. I personally hate contact us pages. And the reason is I did a trial about 1.5 years ago where I contacted 2,000 different businesses in very different industries. And I asked each one of them, can you tell me your opening hours, please? 63 out of the 2,000 have replied in the last 18 months. So presumably the rest have just shut down. And these were not small companies. The reality is there's nobody actually bothers to check if you have had someone send you a message through a Contact Us page. In fact, 99% of companies don't even know where to check, which is quite frightening. The average lead response time, and this is in the medical industry, so I will use that as being you guys, is 47 hours. Okay, we can allow that perhaps on weekends, but that's not talking about weekends. That's talking about during the week. And that's the average lead response time from a Contact Us button. But actually, that's not that far off from any other method of contacting that isn't immediately picked up. 27% of leads get contacted at all. So that's 73%. My math is a bit slow. Don't get contacted at all. So the fact is if someone phones up and you don't answer the phone, the chances are they've gone somewhere else. And the longer you leave it, the more likely they're going to go somewhere else. And the classic one in this country, and I don't know about the US so much, is that we all get put on hold nowadays. Well, the reality is the average hold time is something like about 30 minutes. But the actual customer will actually have already decided 99 times out of 100 that the fact I've waited 30 minutes, well, I'm not going to deal with you anyway, unless it's an emergency. Businesses that respond within an hour are 7 times more likely to have a meaningful conversation with a decision maker. If you leave it more than an hour, chances are you never get to speak to anyone. Fast responders win up to 50% of sales. Calling after 30 minutes is calling back after 30 minutes is 21 times less effective. Bearing in mind, in this day and age, most people are phoning from a mobile phone. they're looking at alternatives. They're looking at Google, they're looking at Facebook, they're looking at what their friends are suggesting. Oh, I can't get through. Oh, why don't you try so-and-so? They've gone. You've lost them. A 1 minute response time can lead to 391% more conversions. So if you can instantly reply in some form or shape, then the chances are you are the one that is going to get the business. The example I was given a couple of weeks ago was actually a plumber, an emergency plumber, but the principles are the same, is if you're phoning an emergency plumber and he answers the phone in a minute, the chances are he's got the job. He might not be the best plumber, but he's there and he's there ready for you. However, if he doesn't answer the phone, people just go to the next one and the next one and the next one. And they will do that in any industry in this day and age. They actually will look to see who's got the best review, and then they will probably go for them. And then if they're not available, they'll work their way down a list and they won't hang about. 82% of consumers expect responses within 10 minutes. So if people aren't answering in your business within 10 minutes, then the consumer has probably gone somewhere else. Less than 25% of businesses respond to web leads via the phone. So if I contact somebody through their website, the chances are that nobody is going to call me back. That's just a reality. Timing your emails right can increase conversions by 49%. So if you do send out messages, getting the email at the right time of the day to arrive in your patient's inbox is crucial. So say, for example, you have a patient that you wanted to contact to tell them something, and it arrives at 8 o'clock on a Monday morning, depending on their type of job title, then the chances are they're going to read that. If it arrives at 6 o'clock on a Friday night, the chances are they will never see it. So it's very much clear how you have to communicate with people. 71% of clients have based their purchase based on an experience. Businesses can see a 15% churn when they slow lead response time. By churn, we mean they basically left you. So it costs a lot of money to get a customer in the first place. So if you're seeing a 15% churn because you're not getting back to people, that's an awful lot of money that you're throwing away just for the simple fact you don't have a fast response time.
Can you touch a little bit more on email timing, like time of day?
It makes a huge difference. Like, for example, if I'm in the US and if I'm sending an email and I know it's going to the US from the UK, I don't send it when it's convenient for me. I send it when it's convenient for the US. So if I'm sending it to Los Angeles, I'm thinking that it needs to be there at 9 in the morning or 1 o'clock or probably 5 o'clock. It depends on the level of person, because the senior people tend to get to work earlier, which is ironic, but it's the true. But the reality is that if you hit certain periods of the day, the worst time is about 10 till about 12. And then again, 2 till about 3:30. Basically, nobody looks at it. The problem is that we've either got a phone off, we're too busy working, we might be driving, picking up the kids, things like that. And even actually, although people say you shouldn't do this, and there are some kind of rules that suggest that you can't do it too late, sometimes even hitting people about 7 o'clock in the evening can be very effective, depending again on the level of person you're trying to communicate with. If you're talking to a CEO, the chances are you've got more chance getting them at 8 in the morning or even 8 at night than you ever have in the bit in the middle, because they're not checking their phone. With email, they're not probably checking their email more than once a day anyway, because they wouldn't be a CEO if they sat all day checking email. Often it will come to, if it's senior people, it may well go to a junior who is then forwarding it on to them. So therefore, again, it needs to be first thing in the morning, last thing at night. So therefore, it arrives for them to see. Getting more leads without spending money on ads. This is what we call the welcome mat lead generation system. This is the solution to those missed contacts. And what do I mean by missed contacts? I mean that when somebody comes to the dreaded contact us page and doesn't do anything, what about a system, which is what we call the welcome mat, where we actually have this on your website. It looks like a simple little widget. So what would happen is if somebody had a question, they can basically ask that question. But the great thing is they then get replied to via a mobile phone. And I don't know if you've ever used one of these widget kind of things on some websites. Well, the thing is, 9 times out of 10, you actually have to go back to the website because it's actually connected to the website. But the way this welcome mat works is now you can have a conversation through just a text message. It makes it convenient for the client. And the more you make things convenient for the client, the more they will likely to react and respond to you. You can custom design this message. You can make it so, depending on what is in the message, that you can actually send different information based on what's in the message. But most importantly, you also get a text message saying there's a message that you need to deal with. So if this happens when you're closed or when you're busy or those kind of things, you still know that you have a message to deal with because someone has sent, well, the system has sent you a message advising you that we've had an inquiry. But the great thing is the customer's now thinking, well, we've already started a conversation, because there are a few things that start this very short conversation. But once we've started this conversation, quite often it will be convenient for the client to continue in a text message more so than on the phone. So let's take our example of the CEO. He's in a business meeting and he's trying to book an appointment. He's booked the appointment, etc., but now he needs to make some changes. So you phone him up, but he's in a business meeting, so he's not going to answer his phone. But he will look at his text messages after he's finished the meeting. The chances are he probably won't go and check his phone for messages. So you are able to continue that conversation. People who are working at their desk, for example, will continue a text message conversation and carry on working. But they can't necessarily take a phone call if they're in a room with other people, or maybe they're driving the car, or all sorts of other possibilities. But the reality is, once they stop, they can check a text, and we all check texts. Texts are the most checked things there are, because we're just made that way. 98% of texts get read. That is significant.
Graham, would you say that WhatsApp has supplanted text messages? I very rarely send a text message, and nor do my friends. We communicate by WhatsApp.
I think we tend, the system we've now got is just about to introduce WhatsApp as well as an alternative. But generally speaking, I would agree that WhatsApp is what we use to communicate with our friends, but still generally business to business.
Right.
It's still pretty much text messaging that's taking it over. But I would agree, definitely for people I would say that on average, I would either use WhatsApp or Telegram, depending on who it was and where they were. But yes, as I found out today that we're actually adding WhatsApp into this process as well. So that kind of covers that as well. That will be in the next 2 or 3 weeks. So this is what it would look like on Smart Vision Marketing, actually. And the idea is it's essentially collecting a name, mobile phone, and a message. But the important thing is now you have this customer stroke prospect, probably prospect, because the chances are a customer will have gone a different route. But you have a new prospect that hasn't disappeared, because if they don't have any way of contacting you, they've gone. Now they have a way of contacting you. They can ask you a question. They might say, well, do I need an eye test, or do I need a lens test, or all these kind of things? But if they can't ask those questions, are they going to hang on the phone for 10 minutes because someone's busy on the reception? Probably not. And I've not done a very good job of this, I have to confess, but this is what it would look like. This down here would look like, I don't think you can you see my mouse moving? Yeah. It would look like on a mobile phone. I've tried to blow it up just to show you the principles, but basically that's what it looks like on a mobile phone. So it's clear, it's very obvious what it is. And the great thing is that people are happy to just text a message into that. They're on their mobile phone. It's the natural thing to do. How many calls do your staff miss in a typical month? You might think none. But on average, around 60 to 80% of all calls made to a practice go unanswered. I was quite shocked at that, to be honest, because I had no idea of that. But I did quite a lot of research on it, and apparently that's general across your industries. That veterinary, optical, blah blah blah, pretty much medical is not the worst by any trait, but it's certainly not in the top 5 of those that answered the phone. The main reason is, I suspect, is you're just damn busy. And the reality is if those calls are unanswered, then you've lost the customer, because the customer is now going, okay, I can't get through, I'll go somewhere else. 7 reasons missed call text back will stop you losing clients. Because you're too busy to answer the phone. You're engaged on another call. Unless you have a waiting system and a voicemail, and reality is most people won't leave a voicemail, you've lost them. People forget to follow up. So in the best intentions of the world, people get a message, they write it down because they're busy, and then they think, I'll call them back later. 2 hours later, they call them back because they've been so busy. And by the time they've called them back, it's too late. Unfortunately, they've made a decision and gone somewhere else. It stops you losing customers to competitors, because once you've made the call and you've contacted them back, how missed call text back works is basically it sends them a text saying, sorry, we've missed your call. We will get back to you as soon as possible. Do you want to continue this conversation by text? That's quite simply how it works. And the point is, it's that simple. It really is, because the customer will say, yeah, why not? Because it's usually more convenient for them. Sorry. You can start a conversation with a new prospect once you have got them in a missed call text back situation and sent them a text. You can now text them, so you can start this conversation. So your next question might be, when you contact them, sorry, we've been busy. How can I help you? Because they're now waiting and anticipating you getting back to them, as opposed to, well, they never bothered to answer. And they get an immediate reply because it's an automated thing. So they get an immediate reply. Sorry, we haven't been able to get hold of you, but your call's important to us. And it sounds genuinely important. We've sent you a text, as opposed to, your call's important to us, please hold. It doesn't work, because people won't. People have got fed up of holding. We spent so much time holding on while COVID to try and get through to important people that we eventually just have given up. So if we can't get through, usually if the opportunity to go somewhere else is an option, then that's what we'll do. And we're not dependent on the staff member being available. If the staff member can't get to the phone because they're doing something else, or they're off sick or anything, then you're not dependent on them being there that second. So therefore, even if they're on the other line, it doesn't matter, because the option is that they still will record the missed call. No one wants to wait anymore to get for someone to get back to them. If you don't get back to your client within a matter of seconds, I would say minutes probably, they're going somewhere else. The system we've created is with the missed call text back is it's very cost effective. It sends a reply to any missed call and then sends a reminder text to you, so you know that you've got a missed call. There are other ways in which that can be followed up, but also you've now captured the customer's basic information, because you've now got their phone number, so you can move forward from that. Your next question might be, can you give me a name, etc., etc. When you own a list of customers and prospects, you can continually follow up with them. The key to all marketing is to build a list. That's why we all have customer databases. But we kind of stop there. We tend to think that our customer database is the only list that we could build. And that's not really true. And the reason that is because if we use a brand site, we can have options to get people to do other things. Like, for example, are you interested in da, 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 da? If so, get the details, etc. And then we just thank them for that. And now we have them on our list. The classic example is that anyone who is actually on your list over time is worth at least £1 per person per month, which sounds a minuscule amount of money, but you imagine you had 3,000 people on your list. That would be £3,000 for basically sending out a single email. Not a bad choice. Oops, I keep doing that. And that could be simply through email. The advantage of email, obviously, is it doesn't cost very much. But even today, the reality is that we still do check email, especially in the business world. Business people actually check email more often than your average person, because of the simple fact is business is money. Almost without exception, the practice CRMs that businesses use and their websites were not designed for marketing. And there's several reasons for that. The biggest one is they're actually designed by software engineers, but they're not designed by people who are experts in lead generation. In fact, virtually all websites are not designed by people who are experts in lead generation. They're fantastic designers. I know one or two absolutely brilliant website designers, but the reality is having a brilliant website won't make you rich. Having a great lead generation system will. They all assume every client will book an appointment, where that most of the CRMs for optical, for example, use, they ask for virtually your medical life up front. And in the US, it's even worse. I've seen they have to submit medical records and all sorts. And this is just to talk to someone. When they come to your website, only 2% of your visitors, if they've only ever been there once before, will do anything. And the majority do nothing because you don't give them any option to do anything. To give them a reason to give you their personal information, or you're going to miss them and they'll be gone. Without appointments, eventually your practice on the high street, your practice anywhere, to be fair, will shrink, because there is not the footfall there used to be in the center of a city or the center of a town, or even in a high street. The thing is, the problem today is that we were all, this has been predicted for years. I actually went to a seminar 25, nearly 30 years ago, and I saw a vision of the high street of the future. And this might frighten you, but there were no banks. The banks had gone. This was a seminar run by banks. And the reality is, if you look at today, they're not far wrong. The reality is banks are shrinking like there was no tomorrow. If they get their way, there'll be only a digital currency, and that's the end of the high street bank. And if that's the end of the high street bank, that's one less person going down the high street coming to your business. So you have to look at alternative ways of bringing in clients, and most people are looking online. But the thing is if you think it can't happen in your industry, I'm sorry, but you're sadly mistaken. It's happened in banking, it's happened in retail. There are companies that have been in existence 200 years that aren't today because they didn't see the writing on the wall. So you need to start thinking about how you use online to generate business, because leaving it is not really an option anymore. Lead generation, it's down to two things. You want the right type of call to action. In other words, you want a hook, a reason why people would choose you, and you want a right offer. So an offer doesn't, as I keep saying, doesn't have to be a product. An offer can be, this is what we can do for you, and then they make that choice as to whether that's their product they want. You'd be more successful if you had a dedicated member of staff or one of your existing staff that only worked getting you new patients. I'll leave that thought with you. A free offer that attracts your perfect patient in exchange for the contact information. That's what a lead magnet is, really. And the best converting lead magnets are things like checklists, information sheets, reports and guides, offers. And it doesn't necessarily have to be discount offers. Open evenings, people love a reason to do something. We don't go out as much as we used to, but if we're interested in the thing, then we'll make the effort. Local businesses, other local businesses, you can work with other local businesses and come up with ideas that create lead magnets that work for both of you. You can publish a book, probably an ebook in reality, but you can publish a book if you have the knowledge. You can offer examinations or even online examinations or anything like that. You can offer samples of things. A classic example I had actually was from an optician, was he was offering free lens cleaner to people. And indeed, he was offering lifetime free lens cleaner to people. The thing is the only way they could get lens cleaner was to come into the business. Well, once you're in a business surrounded by all these wonderful new gadgets and new glasses and things like that, suddenly you're starting to think, well, actually, I wasn't thinking about buying new glasses, but maybe I'll get some sunglasses. And then you'd only come in to get a free refill. But the reality is it's getting people through the door, and that's all it's really about. Right. Sorry, went the wrong way. And the best call to actions are things that make it easy for a client. 24/7 self-booking, so you can have built into your website a method so they can self-book. And by self-book, I don't mean that you need all their medical information. I mean that they reserve the slot. What they do with that slot obviously is down to you, but then it gives them the opportunity on a Sunday afternoon. They're thinking, I really need to see the optician. I'll give them a call. And of course, you're shut. But the reality is, if they can then go to your webpage and then they think, oh, I'll book now, and then they're not thinking about it, they've done it. You can watch or listen to a recording. Something really, really, really powerful is how things like TikTok and YouTube and things like that work. People will literally sit spellbound watching information. And it's not all about dancing frogs and all that kind of thing. It's actually people want to know about the things they want to know about. So if you create a video that explains, for example, how an eye operation works or how an eye examination works, because we all think we know, but we probably don't, then the chances are you'll have an audience, and then that audience will tell other people, did you know this? No, I didn't. Oh, right. So then now they're watching it. And so these things all move along. The opportunity to call our staff. So the chance to talk to someone either via text or via actually a phone message or call is quite rare. And in this day and age, nobody seems to have the time for anyone. But if you can actually find a time, even if it's a specific time each day for, say, half an hour or something like that, where you can actually discuss something with someone, then you'll be ahead of all of the competition. Oops. And things that you can view and things that you can download. If once you can view something as a result of giving information, i.e. your name and email, or you can download something like a PDF report or a piece of software, anything like that, the chances are that people are going to give up their information because they actually see value. You could generate leads while you sleep. You could have your staff as a lead generator. The downside to that is it's a bit of a limited opportunity. Most staff hate the idea. And are they really suitable? And you'd have to keep training them, because what happens about the ones that they didn't deal with that well, et cetera, et cetera. And lead generation is not quite the same as customer service. They're two very different things. Or you could create an automated lead generation funnel, which means you have some form of lead magnet. And the advantage that gives you is it's easy to create a lead magnet. It just needs to something that's of value to your customer, and it has to be of value, something that theoretically you could sell. If you couldn't sell it, you won't be able to give it away. I once ran a bar abroad, and I had several barrels of beer from a brewery who donated it to me, and for love nor money, I could not give it away. As soon as I started to charge for it, I actually made money. The reality is people don't trust something that's not of value to them. And you can bring in traffic 24/7. Traffic is web people, visitors to your website, just to be clear. If you have a landing page or you use the brand landing website, you can generate leads on a Saturday afternoon when you're shut, or a Sunday morning when you're shut, or Christmas Day, whatever. The reality is that you can't do that in your business without some method of allowing your customers to do something. You can automate lead generation from your website, from a blog if you run one, if you send any videos out, or you produce stuff on YouTube or podcasts or email or social media. One of the great things a lot of opticians are now doing, and I'm kind of actively looking to encourage a group of them, is they're now doing podcasts. So they're basically giving information to potential new customers about what they do. And the advantage that has is that you come over as the expert, but not only that, they just want to know stuff. People have got this thirst and hunger for information. And if you're the one who's providing that information, let's take, for example, in the UK, we have a guy called Martin Lewis who gives financial information. Well, he's a very, very wealthy man because of the fact he is very good at giving information. We watch TV to get information. But nowadays, less and less people are watching TV, and more people are looking at things like videos from on YouTube and stuff like that. In fact, the biggest influencers on YouTube get more viewers than even the biggest TV stations, which is quite frightening, really. And you create a lead magnet. So in this case, you might create something that they actually want. We can work out what that would be. And then again, you thank them for their information, and now you have the ability to communicate with them as many times as you want. So in the case of an optician, that might be you would first of all ask them a few personal questions. You create an email as if you wrote it to one person. So you don't create an email so the email reads as if you wrote it to 100 people. You write the email, and I don't mean dear Mr. Smith. I mean, you write it like you were sitting there telling them what you've written in the email. And then the email goes, oh, he's writing to me. They don't think, well, he's written to 900,000 other people. They think you're writing to me. And the advantage of writing to me is that I now, if you hit my hot button, as we refer to it, so in other words, you hit something that interests me, and it might not be your first email, it might not be your 10th email, but eventually, if I was already interested in what you did, which is why I signed up for it, the chances are at some point the timing will be just right, and now I will become either a customer, or I'll make an inquiry, or I'll move to the next level. And if I'm never in your list and I'm never communicated with you, then you haven't even got that opportunity. This is what we call a brand site funnel. As you can see, this is what I mean by a brand site. So it's kind of one long page. They're quite hard to kind of put on a PowerPoint, but I think you get the gist. It's kind of like one long single page. And this is a lead generation funnel. So this is, again, a single page, and it might be a sub page of your brand site. But this would then be, say, if you ran an ad on Facebook, or if you ran an ad in a paper, or if you sent out a leaflet, or you sent out a letter, this might be the kind of landing page you would use, because nowadays you don't really want to be sending out a physical letter because of the cost. But equally, if you do, people will then want to know what to do next. And usually that in this day and age is just visit our website and do A, B, or C. And if you don't have a good, clear message on your website, then they won't know where to go. You can generate appointments without having any of all this. You can use lead generation, so you can actually do the whole thing just through lead generation pages, or you can have an automated system with a human follow-up that books the appointments directly for you, or provides the opportunity for one of your staff to book the appointments, but lets you know that somebody's interested in booking an appointment. It's obviously a more hands-on thing, but the reality is that at the end of the day, the cost aspect is relatively small in relation to the potential large benefit. Bearing in mind, we discuss lifetime value of customer. And you can create a lead machine, essentially, which works day in, day out. This can bring you appointments in your diary and make your practice so much more profitable. Social media sites are digital storefronts for your business. If you don't have a social media web page or a social media page, then you are missing an opportunity. It doesn't necessarily have to be something that you spend weeks and days and months on, but it needs to have some kind of presence there. People nowadays will go to Facebook and Google before they will look in anywhere else. And also they'll be looking to see, one, if your business is active. So if your web page is active, but your Facebook page looks dead, people will just assume that your business has gone out of business. But also with Facebook and things like that, it gives you the opportunity to engage with your customers. This is true of all the social media. You can't be on all social media, probably, but find the ones that are appropriate to your audience. Quite often with opticians, it tends to be Facebook and Instagram. If you're dealing in the business world, it may be LinkedIn as well. I don't generally find that Twitter is, or whatever it's called today, is as popular. YouTube, yes, definitely works, but the chances are, if you're not into video, the chances are you won't be doing that regularly enough to get any real traction there. If you could imagine this at the top of your Facebook page, this is what we call a social cover. So a lot of Facebook pages, which I didn't have time to do this, I'm sorry, but essentially the top of a Facebook page is like a billboard on a street, but it's a digital billboard. But most Facebook pages have either a picture of a member of staff, or they have a dog, or they have nothing, but they don't have any call to action, and they don't have an offer. So examples of this might be, this is an offer. Another one might be a review from a client and the options is that you can keep rotating these billboards. So essentially, you might have one for Christmas that is different. You might have another one for New Year that's different. You might have another one for Easter. You might have one for St. Patrick's Day. You might have one because it's just a Wednesday. I don't know. But the reality is if you keep things fresh, your clients think there's a lot more going on than there probably is. But the reality is that is what you need to do in 2023. So how often should you post on social media? 4 times on Twitter. As I say, I wouldn't bother. 2 times per day on Facebook, once on Instagram, and probably 3 times per day on, twice on Facebook and 3 times on Instagram. With Instagram, you can literally just take pictures of people wearing your eyewear, for example, and that will get an awful lot of engagement because people love that. Absolutely love that kind of thing because it shows you're a human business. With Facebook, then you might only have sort of general posting going on a couple of times a day, and we can help you with that. But the reality is that you add a bit of personality to it. You ask a client who's a happy client, can I take a quick minute video of you? Or can I just get you to have a quick quickie? And things like that. People love to be famous for 15 seconds. But the reality is the vast majority of people will engage because they know the person on the page. And then once you get engagement, the more engagement you get, you engage back with them. And now you've got people that you've never heard of or never seen before, and they start to become customers. And don't assume people who of a certain type of person, i.e. a CEO, doesn't have a Facebook page. Well, they do because they have a family. And the reality is very few people don't have either a Facebook, an Instagram, or a LinkedIn page. So I can't comment on Twitter. Personally, I don't use a lot of Twitter. But the reality is you have to have some kind of presence on social media. I would suggest that typically you should be posting a couple of times a day, and they don't have to be complicated. It's just something that shows that something's happening in your business.
Is it important that you post according to your brand, or can it just be sporadic? And
it can be. You have to kind of, with Facebook and to an extent Instagram, your brand colors is enough. So you don't want, if you're, say your brand is blue and white, for example, like Facebook wouldn't post something that's red and green. Yeah, but it doesn't necessarily have to be everything is branded, because you're trying not to look like you're trying to sell to people. The mistake most people make when they use Facebook and Instagram indeed for business is they try to sell to somebody from Facebook and Instagram. But the reality is what you're trying to do is to get people to engage with you. So you want them to make likes and comments, yeah? But not so much likes. Likes aren't really worth that much, but comments are. But one simple question like, who is interested in Ray-Ban glasses? Yep, for example, I'll just pick that one because I know the name. If you ask that question on your webpage, the chances are that, provided there's people coming to your webpage, and you can always pay initially to get people to come to your website. It doesn't have to cost you very much. $5 a day is quite reasonable, and that will get eyes on the prize, so to speak. But the more that people engage with you, the more other people engage with you, and the more other people engage with you because they come where their friends are. And if you ask simple questions. They don't even have to be branded anything. They literally can be a text question. So, when was your last eye test? It's not selling them anything. It's literally asking them, did you know that 3% of people are colorblind? I don't know if that's a fact, it probably isn't. But the reality is those kind of things create discussion. And I have lots and lots and lots of things that I've created that are branded for different optical businesses. And the only way they've been really branded is kind of their color. And a few of them might have a logo on them, but it's subtle because you're not trying, because they're already on your page. So you're not trying to attract them to your business. You're just trying to get them to feel that you are more than just a face, if you know what I mean. That you're trying to feel that you want them to belong to you, so they feel loyal to you. So that way, then when they make these decisions, they don't think, well, actually, I'll go to Specsavers because they're cheaper. They actually think, well, I really love Vic because he makes great comments, and it doesn't have to be you. But the point is someone makes a great comment when someone makes a great comment. And I can show you software that allows you to do pretty much all of that, and actually none of it's you. But the reality is that if you don't engage with people, then they aren't going to engage with you. But that's all you're actually looking for. I don't ever sell directly on Facebook or Instagram because it doesn't work. What I do is I ask questions like, I've got this free report on such and such. Anyone want one? Well, as soon as they ask that question, then I can say, well, how did you get on, et cetera, et cetera. Start a conversation. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Only 12% of followers are ever going to see your post unless you pay for it. Facebook and Instagram are not billion-dollar companies, multi-billion-dollar companies, and for nothing. The main reason they get so many people is because people go to people, and that's simply it. It's like if you go to a restaurant and it's empty, then you're suddenly like, chances are you're not going to go there. You walk past it and go to another one. So the more people come to your web page, the more people come to your social media pages, the more you look like the place to be. And if you're in a local community, the more people come in the local area, then the less work you have to do spending money. You don't have to advertise to people who can't buy from you. There's no point. What is the point of advertising to the world? So you gear everything to the local market if that's the only market you're in. Right. I kind of covered this because I didn't want to leave it out. Video marketing is exceedingly powerful. There are ways of creating really, really simple videos that are really, really powerful. If you can create 1-minute videos, don't go into long videos. Nobody really watches them anymore. And also you can cover an awful lot of ground with 1-minute video. Like today, I am the best part of an hour doing this. But what I will do is I will create this into like lots of 2-minute videos, each one covering each section, because that covers an awful lot more ground and gets a lot more eyes on the prize. And of course, you can blog if you are so inclined. There are ways and means of getting information and creating a blog within your website. A blog, if you think of it, is just a bunch of articles that relate to your website. But the advantage is they have an SEO benefit, a search engine benefit. But search engines are less and less important in this day and age because, to be honest, most traffic doesn't come from a search engine. And with things like ChatGPT, Bard, which is Google's AI, I've forgotten what Microsoft's is called, but essentially more and more of this is being done by an automated system. People aren't doing the kind of levels of searching they were doing. So it will be interesting to see how that develops regarding search engines. Showed up for a reason, because obviously you've got a lot of benefits to do with your life. So you showed up today because you know you're not generating the type of leads you want from your website, or you're not running the right offers, or you want to grow your business with more opportunities and appointments. Or maybe you just showed up today, because you want to position yourself as the best in your area. And I think that's probably true of most people who turn up to try and improve their business. And you realize that every single customer you want is now online. And that's the reality. Even if your main market is somebody over 65, they are almost certainly online. It's all changed because of COVID. And once upon a time, Zoom calls were things that teenagers did. TikTok was things that young people did. The average age on TikTok is now 42, and it's not a children's platform. They've moved somewhere else. I don't quite know where, but things evolve. If we look at how things have evolved, the internet is more and more important today than it's ever been. And if you're not positioned right on the internet, the high street is not going to do you any favors at all, because it's getting smaller by the day. I was in Peterborough city centre the other day, which is where I live, and it was a Wednesday morning, and I expected to see it quite busy. And to be honest, it was like a ghost town. And it's a fairly big city. We have a population of just under 250,000 people, and the main streets were empty. And that's the way the world is today. People would rather pick up a web page and go to Amazon and buy stuff. And generally speaking, people won't put themselves out if they don't have to. So you have to want to get them first. Or maybe you showed up today because you're tired of guessing what works. Well, I've spent a lot of time looking at what works, and I've given you 4 ways, 5 ways, 6 ways, 7 ways of how you can generate more business for your practice or clinic. Some of those you could do yourself tomorrow. They might involve quite a bit of work, but you could certainly do them yourself. And on that note, there are 2 options. You can do it yourself, as I said, and I've given you the information. I haven't held anything back, and I've answered questions. And if anyone's got any more, I'm more than happy to answer them. And you could spend weeks or months putting it all together. I've spent about the last 3, nearly 4 years putting it together. I've spent a lot of time on trial and error and figuring it all out. And to be honest, figuring it all out today might not be figured it out tomorrow. What did we know in October was going to do with AI? We had no clue. Today, I wrote a sales letter, which AI did 50% of the work for me. And to be honest, it would probably do at least as half as good a job as I did. Or you can fast track your results and start getting customers almost instantly. The database system I showed you would get you in customers within a matter of a couple of days. And if you implement any of the strategies I've given you, they will bring you customers. If you make minor changes, you will see big result. If you wanted to get started now, I promise you, I'm not giving you a sales pitch. I've not spoken about money or anything like that. But if you want to know how any of those things works in more detail, I'm more than happy to talk about them on a one-to-one basis. You can contact me through either of the phone numbers, or alternatively, you can contact me through LinkedIn. To be honest, probably the best way to get hold of me is LinkedIn, since I seem to be living on LinkedIn at the minute. If you would like the free gifts, one of which is a map on how to run probably the best way to get hold of me is LinkedIn, since I seem to be living on LinkedIn at the minute. If you would like the free gifts, one of which is a map on how to run the database reactivation for yourself. If you want to do it, you can just text the word health and claim your free gift, and I will send it over to you tomorrow. I've just got to make a couple of changes to the map because I missed something out. And on that note, has anyone got any questions?
No.
Very informative. Thank you.
Yeah. Excellent, Graham. Thank you very much for that.
Good.
Some golden nuggets in there.
Pardon?
Some golden nuggets in your
Hopefully,
presentation.
Yeah. Hopefully, obviously we've not had a big crowd, but hopefully the crowd has been happy. Thank you, Jack. So yeah, so any questions at all?
One of the things that has worked for us, which I think was perhaps an omission, or you haven't included in your presentation, were Google reviews. They seem to be people like testimonials. They like reviews. They want to know. Yeah, they want to know if it's tried and tested, and that's worked very positively for us.
Yes, definitely.
The issue is how to get people, if people don't have Google accounts or Gmail accounts, then it's very difficult to get them to sign up to it. But I believe there are various agencies now that there
are ways and means of getting more Google reviews. One is quite simply you ask everybody. And generally speaking, the best way to do that is to ask them straight after they've left us, or within an hour or so. But the other thing is if you can't show the Google reviews, is that there are ways of showing like reviews that are on other platforms. And also the thing that we've been doing with clients is we've been doing it's actually like, I'll call it a pop-up, but it's not really. But what it does is it actually takes the best review that you've got, if you like, and it streams it on your website. So that then basically shows people the best reviews you've done in the last few months. And then they don't start looking, and it then has a call to action on the actual review. It actually says click to call or click to book an appointment or whatever you want it to say. It can say what you like. And I've used that with a few opticians and it's been really, really successful. But the other thing it does do is it also tracks what's the visitors that are coming to your website. And it's quite phenomenal, a very simple piece of software, but it's exceptionally effective and costs next to nothing, to be honest.